Good evening, everyone, and welcome to another day of the E-Meet Your Design School series. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen. Give me a second. Right, I hope you can see my screen. So the purpose of this particular series of E-Meeting Your Design and Fashion School is that you really interact with the top management of the school. You understand their academic philosophy and you see if that philosophy suits you, right? And then you don't apply to all the schools that you see. You select the schools that you relate to and you apply to those. Thereby, you save your time and money as well. Also, if you missed the previous webinar on how to write an SOP, please have a look at our YouTube page, where you can get information on how you can do your portfolio as well. If you missed the webinar on navigating design school admissions, right? You can watch this webinar as well, which is on our YouTube page, and join our WhatsApp groups. The link to this deck is in the description of this particular webinar, so you can either click on that or you can scan these QR codes, right? For today, we are introducing Alliance University, the Alliance School of Design and Creative Arts, which is in Bangalore. I'm going to be pasting the application link to this in the chat window, so you can click on that link. I'm also going to be posting it in the description of this webinar. But to introduce Ms. Srishti Bajaj, who is the director of the school. Srishti Bajaj is an award-winning multidisciplinary designer, educator, and mentor, right? She's she's worked over the last 20 years in design, and she holds an MA in design products from the Royal College of Art, London, and she is also a graduate of NIFT. She's pursuing her PhD, and as an award-winning designer, she's won prestigious awards. She's an entrepreneur, and her products um, that she's founded in her entrepreneurship has been displayed at various locations, both in India and globally. She's also immersed herself into design education and is a visiting faculty and has led various design schools before pursuing her position out here at Alliance School of Design and Creative Arts. Um, Professor Srishti, thank you so much for coming here, along with your team, of course. Really happy to have you here. Thanks for taking the time out to meet with our students and parents. Welcome to this series.
Thank you so much, Dion. And really, it's a pleasure to be here. And a big warm welcome to all the faculty and students, so our parents and students who have joined us. I think I'm always happy to talk about design. It's one of my passions, and I want more and more people in the world to be designers, think like designers, work like designers. And I think we have a lot to offer to this world. And so I'm always enthusiastic about design and what it can do. So I'm happy to
Fantastic.
be here.
Fantastic. We share a common passion at that.
Super.
Looking forward to seeing what you have to say. I'm going to hand it over to you and your team right away.
Thank you. So what I'll do very quickly do is introduce my team before I go on to my presentation so that you know who is waiting in the wings while you see my presentation. So we have Professor Suman Banerjee. He's he's our champion for all the young students who come into year one because he looks after foundation. And today he's going to be talking about some of the things that we do in foundation, and he's also going to be talking about product and interiors. If you have any questions, please, put it in the chat box, or you can address it directly to him when we go into the Q&A. We also have Professor Akhil Tamta, who is a fashionista. Can I call you that?
Hi. Thank you so
He's
much,
a
Srishti.
fashion
Good
design
evening, everyone.
faculty, and
Yeah.
with many years of experience in the industry, making other people look good. And I think his job is to teach you how to now make other people look good.
Great.
And I keep telling him he has to make us look better, but we've not come to that yet. We also have Professor Kaustubh Ray, who
Hello.
is a multidisciplinarian in his own right, but he is also looking after communication and animation in particular with Alliance University. And he's a very interesting conversationalist. So I'm sure you'll have lots of questions. Keep a lot of questions for him, I would say. Let him answer those questions. Then we also have Professor Anirban. Professor Anirban, we can't see you yet, but he is here representing interaction design for anybody who's interested. Oh, there we go. There he is. He's sitting in Calcutta at the moment for Durga Puja, and I'm sure a bunch of you might also relate to that. So, very quickly, I'm going to start my presentation, and the presentation is really just to give you an overview of what Alliance is and what the School of Design is. So, let me start sharing that now. You guys will have to give me a quick yes or no to tell me when you can see my presentation. Is this visible?
Yes, it's visible.
Oh, super. Thank you, Dion. So, like I said, we are Alliance School of Design. And what is interesting about our school is that we are part of a larger university. Alliance University is about 27 years old now. And it has, apart from design, four other verticals: liberal arts, which also houses School of Media and School of Performing Arts. But we also have the Faculty of Engineering, we have the Faculty of Law, and we have the Faculty of Business. So as a university, there are many different portfolios, and it's actually quite fun to have a design school as part of a larger university because it allows for a lot of sort of cross-pollination, both in terms of projects, in terms of learning, in terms of exchange of ideas. So I think that's very enriching. Now, the design life at Alliance University, before I really get into the specifics, is all about learning inside and outside the classroom. And not just from your faculty, but also from industry experts, from doing things on your own. What you see, some of these images are from, international conferences that we have on campus, like the artificial intelligence conference. We also have literature festivals. We also have, design symposiums that keep happening, conferences, both about design and non-design areas. What you will also see is it's extremely hands-on, right? So the amount of time that you spend in the classroom is also about doing, not just about theoretical learning, which I think for a lot of students is a big departure from how you learn in school, right? So that's one of the exciting things about design, that you don't have to just read through a book, but you also have to apply what you learn. What also happens is that as part of a larger university, there are many different clubs. We have something called DOS, which is Department of Student Services, and they take care of all extracurricular and non-curricular activities. So whether it's a football match, whether it's going for a festival in a different institution, whether it's celebrating Onam, all of those things are organized by DOS. In fact, we have clubs inside the school. We've got a design club and a makers club. So the design club, for example, looks at some of the larger engagements around the conversation of design, and the maker clubs focuses on things that you do with your hands. So example, crafts, for example, making things with your own hands, learning different skill sets. So we keep having workshops and things. So what I wanted to just sort of say is that I think when you're looking at a design life at Alliance, it will be both looking at what happens with design inside the classroom, but also what happens outside the classroom. both from an academic and non-academic point of view, because we do feel that it feeds into each other, right? If you're an amazing sportsman, the discipline that you have there will feed into what you do in the classroom, and you bring that excellence back into the classroom. So we feel that it's very, very important to have that balanced life. And that's what being at Alliance University is all about. Now, coming to the School of Design, very quickly, these are some of our Board of Studies members. If you want to know more about them, you can very quickly go to the website and have a look. But our focus when we were putting the BOS together, short for Board of Studies, is to ensure that you have one of the best, a few of the best names, both India and internationally, that represent all the different disciplines. So from having somebody like Sonia Manchanda, who's currently also representing India at the World Design Organization internationally, or, you know, Suresh Eriath, who's like an amazing animator and has won awards all around the world. Or you have somebody like Anna Barnagozi in the middle, who's a design theorist, because we want to also bring that critical learning inside the classroom. Again, Jatin Bhatt, who has been a lifelong design academic, he's very well known in the academic circles in design. So the idea was to sort of have that balance between what the industry is doing and what academia needs to do. And therefore, the conversation is a lot richer. These are the 6 specialisms that we offer at the moment. I'm sure most of you are very familiar with this. We have fashion, product, interior, interaction, visual communication, and animation film design. Okay. Now, let's get to what makes us interesting, at least what we think makes us interesting. So this year, we sat and we looked at the design curriculum, and most of us were of the opinion that I think the way the world is going, how dynamic it is, how things are always shifting, the curriculum needs to really address and help a student adapt to becoming a professional who can maybe work in any kind of situation that comes in the future, because we all we can do as academics is really prepare you for that future 5 years from now. We can't predict what's going to happen. So the attempt with the new curriculum is to ensure that you have the knowledge and the skill, the depth and the width, to be able to do that as professionals, but most importantly as creators, as designers. Yeah. So we started with this key statement when we started to look at our curriculum, that, you know, we cannot solve the problems by using the same kinds of thinking that we used to create them. And we know what the world is today, right? There are many, many crises that we need to figure solutions for. And I think designers are going to be important facilitators of these chains and to be able to make that impact. So what we did was we said, okay, if that is the case, then we need to ensure that our curriculum looks at both creative, critical, and contextual learning, because you cannot be creative without critically thinking, and you cannot critically think without understanding the environment or the context in which the problem is set. We want to be cutting edge, of course, both in terms of technology, but also cutting edge of design. With or without technology, right? We also want new approaches of problem solving, because the way we've been working hasn't really led us to long-term solutions, right? So what can the curriculum offer to build that in? We also wanted to ensure that there's a unique DNA for each graduate. Look, there are a lot of design education institutions that are opening. I think in the next 5 years, by the time you guys graduate, there will be a lot more. So what will an Alliance student be made of compared to other competitors is what we were focusing on. And this is where the next point comes in, that we wanted to make sure that you are transdisciplinary learner. Hold on to that word. We will come back to it in a minute, right? And we also wanted to ensure that whatever you do in your undergrad, it helps you find that, of course, find employment, but it also today allows you to very easily pivot in the master's and the PhD program. So transdisciplinary design, as I very mentioned a little bit earlier, is really about bringing different kinds of thinking together, different kinds of discipline together to be able to problem solve. Okay. What you can see on the screen is a graph that represents 3 kinds of thinking. So you have multidisciplinary, interdisciplinary, transdisciplinary. We are focusing on the latter, where we are looking at how design can come together with management, can come together with maybe law and engineering, policy making, to actually look at a new potential field of design tomorrow and how that will enable complex problem solving. Remember how I talked to you about how Alliance has these different disciplines, and we really, really wanted to capitalize on these verticals and see how designers can learn from it and take advantage of it. So that's where the curriculum is seated. So within the discipline that you choose, so the program that you choose, let's say you choose product design or interior design or fashion, all students will have these three components of learning. Okay, one is called the Alliance Edge, and I will very quickly talk about this in a second. You have the disciplinary majors, and then you have the transdisciplinary minors. Okay, Alliance Edge is about equipping you with what is required to be a 21st century professional. Okay, whether it's critical thinking, whether it's understanding society, whether it's understanding how to manage financial concerns, both personally and emotional concerns, or be able to communicate well in front of an audience. Okay, and learning beyond the classroom is about you being able to pursue your interests, but also getting credits for it. So remember, I talked about the sportsman. So tomorrow, if you go and play at a national level basketball tournament or win a painting competition at an international platform, you will get credits for it. So everything that you do and learn allows you to progress as a graduate, right? Disciplinary major focuses on the core learnings of the discipline. So if you're doing product design, all the subjects that you need to learn to become a product designer. And the transdisciplinary minor, and I think that's really the game changer for us, is what allows you to have that edge, that when you apply for a job, you're not just a product designer in a silo, but you have the breadth of working at different things. We'll come to that in a second. So this is how it kind of looks like. You have the BDes, you have the MDes and the PhD. So by the way, any student who does a BDes with us can also later choose an MDes and a PhD to pursue. But when you look at the BDes, you look at Alliance Edge, which is on the left of my screen, my hand, left hand here, where you will get inputs on language communication, digital design tools, data skills you will learn. So things like how do you look at data, how do you read data, how do you make sense of data, societal orientation, life skills, and learning beyond the classroom, which I just talked about. In BDES, of course, you can choose any of the majors. Then you will study the core of that subject. And in the minor that you can see, 24 credits is semester 2 to 6, is these are the 7 minors that you can choose any one from. So you could be an interior designer and choose to look at new material design. You could be a visual communication designer and choose to look at new material design. And that can sort of change based on what your interests are. So if you're interested in, let's say, AI and parametric technology, you can possibly choose generative AI, no matter which core you have taken up. Yeah. So let's look at this a little bit more in detail. Now, I talked about Alliance Edge. I'm not going to read all of this. This is really just for you to glance through. But these are just some of the subjects that you get to study under the Alliance Edge umbrellas. So if you're looking at societal orientation, you will read about Eastern and Western societies. You will also talk about gender and society. You will talk about advocacy and social justice, digital sociology. When you look at language and communication, you will look at public speaking and community advocacy. I think these are all very, very important skills to make you sort of stand out as a professional. So this is what Alliance Edge holds. And by the way, a lot of these skills are coming from the World Economic Forum and what they talked about the future skills. So we've kind of tried to bring that in and make sure that you as a student, when you graduate, are equipped for that 21st century workspace. Now, these are the minors that I was talking about. Each of the 7 minors have been chosen very, very carefully to represent a specific domain in which we think design is currently moving and in the future will have a large amount of impact. So, for example, sustainable design. I mean, everybody understands what that is, but do we really know how to make it happen? What makes a difference between being sustainable for the sake of being sustainable, but actually being sustainable in the long run? Okay. New material design looks at creating your own materials. So tomorrow you could be using kitchen waste and creating materials for packaging, or you could be growing your own clothes, growing your own furniture. So if you're interested in how materials work and you like working with hands on, you like exploring, then maybe you pick up new material design. Strategic design management is something that a lot of students would maybe interested in, maybe family businesses, or let's say they want to, for in the future, look at managerial roles. They want to manage organizations of their own, or others can look at strategic design management. It really teaches you how business and design comes together for profit. Indian ethnocentric design looks at the idea of India as a civilization and where design needs to situate itself in the future. So, it is said that you have to look back in order to look ahead. That's what you would do. So, if anybody's interested in exploring how design was a living system in India, 100,000 years ago, maybe that timeline is incorrect, but you get my drift. And what can we learn from that for contemporary living? Speculative design is one of my favorites. I'm trained as a speculative designer. Here we look at what the future might hold, and we look at the future critically. We look at how technologies are changing and what impact it may have on us as a society, and how designers need to be prepared for those challenges. And sometimes we go so far ahead in the future. For example, you might say, okay, let's imagine 50 years from now, there is no water. What will life be like? What do we need to do to ensure that we are able to survive as a species in those um, times ahead with us? So that's speculative design. You speculate about the future. Social design and innovation really looks at the grassroots. It looks at what are the social concerns that we are surrounded by today, and what can designers do to creatively tackle them. It could be about pollution. It could be about education. It could be about gender sensitivity. All of these are social concerns. So a student who's studying social design and innovation can look at that from the design perspective. And the last is generative design, which looks at, of course, I mentioned earlier, parametric design. And if you want to be, let's say a fashion designer who wants to look at AI and how you can build clothes with AI, this is the place for you to explore. Or maybe you are a communication designer who wants to look at how generative AI can look at autonomous conversations in the future. I hope I'm saying that right. So all of these, by the way, are transdisciplinary, because not only will you learn how designers have to look at it, but you will also get inputs from experts from different schools. So for example, if you are a social design and innovation student, you will get inputs from humanities and law to look at, what does public policy and advocacy say about social and community development. If you're in sustainable design, you might also work with the engineering students to look at how can we build more sustainable systems, for example. Strategic design management, you will be learning from business faculty who will then come and teach how business leaders think, but now we put the design lens on it. So this is sort of a quick overview of how minors work. Very quickly, this is my last slide. It's well, second last. This is really to share with you why we took this direction, because we do feel that we want students to be able to have both micro and macro view of the world to be able to make better design decisions. They should be versatile, which makes them attractive to employers. They should have both a product perspective, and product could be anything here, but also a systems perspective, which is how does things actually work when they come together, because nothing works in isolation. It's like a domino effect that you need to understand. And also, these interesting mix opens the opportunity for innovation. It opens the opportunity for you to explore things that one hasn't even thought about before. So a big room for play and experiment and exploration. And we, of course, we want students to not just have an understanding of materials and mediums and processes, but also have a larger view of what design can do. Because I think design today is becoming much more than just the object that you create, but it's becoming more about experiences and the value that you create for the consumer. So that's where we are pushing our curriculum. Just for clarity, I'm sure a lot of you have these questions, but this is the entrance qualifiers and the fees. All of this data is available on the website. So if you want to know, I think Dion had shared the link earlier. please go and look. You will find most of these details on the website. And I think that is it. Thank you very much for your time. I'm now going to open the conversation. By the way, these sketches are from open day that we just had last week from a communication design student. So they had to sit and do a 5-second caricature of the person sitting across from them. Quite a fun exercise. But thank you. I'll stop sharing.
Fantastic. That I think very, very interesting structure you all have there, Srishti. Thank you so much for that. If you can show that one slide on the structure, the major, minor, and core. Yeah.
I'll just share again. 1 second.
Yeah.
Okay.
The credits.
Yeah.
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 Because so the you know, everyone wants to focus on the philosophy, right? That's what differentiates your school from, makes your school much more different from what we've seen otherwise. Um, and I would like to talk a little more on this slide before we go into the quick Q&A,
Yeah.
because I see that you have Alliance Edge, a major and minor, and all adding to 180 credits. So that's what gives the students the degree, right?
Yes. Yes.
And it's interestingly, you'll have a whole range of options under Alliance Edge, and these are all credit programs.
Yes.
Like, for example, I saw one of the options as personal finance.
Yes.
And that's something I think is very important because designers really struggle with
Yeah.
finance, right?
It's true. It's true. It's true.
And that's why it got my attention. And I think it's a very
Yeah.
important aspect to have these options to students while they're studying and
Yeah.
sensitize them to these aspects.
Yeah.
So I thought this was something which is very interesting to focus on, and which brings me into the question from Smita Adarsh, who's saying, is transdisciplinary design suitable for someone unsure of their interests, allowing them to develop a more diverse set of skills across fields?
Um, I think it's definitely for people who would like to do many things. I wouldn't say it's about not knowing what to do, but maybe you haven't quite figured out what is the one thing that you would like to do. So I can answer this question in two ways. Okay. One thing I would say is that it is very important to have a core specialism, because you cannot be a jack of all trades and master of none. I think this is one of the reasons why we're offering them as a lot of these other disciplines as minors, because the idea is that, let's say if you become a fashion designer, you could apply that skill of a fashion designer to any of the minors, to any of the other fields that you want to explore. That's very, very important. But here's the good news for you. You don't have to necessarily have a very clear idea about what you want to do till you finish your year one, because the foundation is essentially a common foundation. And I'll invite Suman sir in a minute to talk a little bit about that. So it gives you a year to get a sense of what each of the disciplines have to offer and where your interest lies. So that year is very, very important for you to figure, okay, maybe this is something I don't want to do, even if you don't know what you do want to do. I think that's the space of elimination is there, and you can always change your discipline at the end of year one. So this happens to a lot of students, by the way. A lot of students who are very sure on day one of what they want to do realize when they know a little bit more about the fields, they decide, well, actually, I'm not so sure. And therefore, can I switch and go into something else? So that option is definitely available to you. What transdisciplinary does is it allows you to take your core discipline in many different directions. Because what I've seen is that the world that we live in today, it is not enough to just become a communication designer. You should have something to say. You should have a certain sense of work. So as a communication designer, are you somebody who focuses on sustainability? Are you somebody who looks at public advocacy? Are you somebody who is looking at policy development? By the way, these are jobs for designers. okay, these are no longer just jobs for bureaucrats because there are designers who are getting into this field. It may not happen on the first 5 years, but it is definitely something that you can have experience and get into. You might be working on teams where the policy making is led by a bureaucrat, but they're looking at designers to be able to really give them insights that are real, that are on point, and actually can have an impact, right? So I would suggest that don't think of transdisciplinary as a option for not knowing what you want. I think the two have to come together really, really well. That's where the magic will happen. I don't know if I answered that question the way she asked it, but
You did. From what we got is that to summarize that first, Smita, um, those who don't have the clarity or unsure of the interest have a year to figure that out. Number one. Number two is that transdisciplinary design really goes beyond the silos of product or fashion or the regular options and really lets the student explore beyond that and be more application oriented, right?
I would say research or application,
Okay.
because I think the transdisciplinary space is very ripe for research. I think there needs to be a lot more work that needs to be done in this domain, and which is also why we have transdisciplinary PhDs, because we are inviting scholars to spend more time researching transdisciplinary domains. And I think what happens in transdisciplinary spaces is that I'm trained as a product designer. Suman is trained as an animation designer. Akhil is trained as a fashion designer. We could all be working on a sustainable design project together. So it allows different people from different disciplines to come together and bring their specialisms in the picture so that we can learn from each other and really come up with solutions that are beyond the silos, and more about the problem we are solving.
All right. So at this point, I think this goes beyond the, like, if you look at Alliance Edge, it goes beyond the traditional thought process of just the design department working
Yeah.
independently, and it's a broader universe
Yeah.
where all the departments of the university really collaborate on focusing on better
Yeah.
quality of life. Uh,
Absolutely.
which brings me to the next question by Jayanti Bekal, who's saying, are the Alliance Edge subjects compulsory, or do we get to choose options?
So there are some electives, some are mandatory. I'll explain the logic behind this. The mandatory subjects are the ones that we think you must know to be able to do the basics of the discipline. Okay, so your disciplinary core, a lot of the subjects are going to be mandatory, which means that if you've chosen interaction design, there will be a set of subjects that are fundamental to become an interaction designer that we will not say are elective, or you cannot forego them. What we are offering at as electives are things that work in the permutation combination aspect. So for example, I'm going to go back to the slides again to share with you what I mean. So let's say we look at Alliance Edge for a second and you look at societal orientation. So while the three subjects will be, first two subjects are mandatory actually between semester 1 and semester 2, but as you move to semester 3, you might be able to choose between focusing on human society environment or equity, diversity, and social inclusion. So depending on where your area of interest is, you can also then choose between either studying youth culture, gender society, or advocacy for social justice. So there are electives built in. So when you say, when you look at 18 credits, these are mandatory 18 credits, but you do have flexibility of choosing a few. But some we think will be very important. So for example, understanding what is the relationship between an individual and society is fundamental to learning everything else. So that will become mandatory, and electives are the things that we feel that can have different ways of looking and ways of reading the world. Those are offered as electives. Coming back, the majors, you choose any one. And the minor, again, all of these are electives, so you can choose any one. If you're interested in social design as a fashion designer, great. If you're interested in new materials as a fashion designer, great. So you can choose between all of these. Although, Dion, I have to say some of the feedback we've got is that these subjects are so interesting that all students want to study everything. So my argument then would be that we should make design as a 5-year subject, not a 4-year subject.
Absolutely. So they all look very interesting, to be honest. I'm sure, people would want a little bit of everything. They like
Yeah,
the
yeah.
buffet. Right. So moving on. Um, right. At this point of time, I would like to get an understanding from the various faculty on what they do in their departments, right?
Mhm.
So, for example, Suman Banerjee, you handle the foundation batch, right?
Yeah,
So what do you look for, or how do you kind of mentor students when they join and they reach into the foundation year?
uh, well, I think it's quite easy because, firstly, uh, the student come and I take them as a wet clay. And as molding a wet clay is much easier, provided they have an interest to learn. That's the first qualification we ask for when we interact with them on the first time in the platform. The first basic qualification what people ask me what I should carry forward. And I said that just carry that interest to learn further. So, and you don't have to carry anything else. Rest all we are here to train you about. Many of them raise a question like, I don't know how to draw. Can I join School of Design? And I said, yeah, the School of Design is not only about drawing. Drawing is a particular skill, but apart from that, and that skill can be learned. It's just that we haven't been teaching them in a scientific manner. And if you tackle this whole issue of how to train them in drawing perfectly and take a scientific approach, you can train them all. I have done that with several batches for so long. It's been almost 28 years in the same academic profession. So I have handled about 16, 17 foundation batches so far. So I know how to handle these things. And what we take it as like in the first semester when they step in, and I know that they have never had any exposure to design because this new thing of design as a subject in the CBSE curriculum is just very recent. Also that's not applicable to most of the other schools. So when the students come, they have already been only learning physics, chemistry, mathematics, biology, then got entangled within that, and they never got any chance to explore or experiment with what they can do and what they cannot do. So the first choice they make about a specialization is based on either their elder brother or their friend or some social media exposure. They say that I would like to do product design. And without even knowing what product design actually means or what it takes in, or somebody will say, come and say interior. Maybe they have seen some of their family members having a business in interior. So they think, and then while that, what Srishti ma'am elaborated about that one complete year, what happens in that 1 year is you really get to know about your own self. You really get to know about what you are very good at. And only after that, you make an informed decision. You look at the work which you have done, you understand the potentials you carry, plus you have a set of faculty who sits as a jury to counsel you throughout the entire process of decision making. So and that happens in front of your work. So the whole of 1 year of work is there in front of you, and there's your faculties as counselors, and then you take an informed decision. So that is more of an then you understand why you have taken that choice, uh, and then again, it's not the end of the story again. I mean, like sometimes what happens is I have seen a person who is very good in graphic design as and carrying the same good skill in the product design arena also. So at that point of time, there is a dilemma in that. But as per the new education policy, gives you that offer also that at the end of the second year, if you really, really, really want to take a turn back, which never happens usually, but if you really want to take a turn back and come back to product design from graphic design or vice versa, you can do that, but that would be the last chance. But then again it would be evaluated about, the faculty team would evaluate on your performance of that entire year, and then will recommend you to go ahead, or may give you some corrective classes to cope up with the things. So yeah, it's like quite interesting to deal with many students put together. And then I have a batch who's like, say only 5 students from product and 10 students from interaction and 20 students from communication. So it is a very good mix of students who I deal with. And the kind of questions come up in the classroom is also very interesting. It covers almost all the disciplines put together.
I'm sure when you have a range of students in a classroom, you'll get different ideas
Yes,
that
of
come
course.
across. So
Yeah.
fantastic. So apart from the foundation batch, you also handle product and interior
Yes, of course.
design.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can talk about product and interior design, but I have, as for the last 25, 28 years now, teaching design, what we say that learn design first and then diversify into product or interior or graphics or communication. Yes, in product also, it's like when you get into a product designer, then what you should try and capture is the newer ideas what comes to you. Every in design, every design aspect, whenever you come into a specialization area, you deal firstly with some innovative new materials. Like communication design, people deal probably with some certain softwares and things like that. But in product design, people deal with harder products or other materials to convert their ideas into reality. That is one thing. And what Alliance is good about it is the kind of curriculum which has been built up by the experts from all over the globe, is that is a very comprehensive curriculum, that covers a broad spectrum of topics, from design thinking to user-centric design to material technology to advanced manufacturing process, and sustainability, of course. So people get to learn and get to take the advantage of this comprehensive curriculum. And you have a very experienced faculty for each of these modules when they teach and deliver in the class. They have all at least minimum of my team is about 15 to 20 years of experience, every one of us. And then we have a lot of visiting faculty who come from abroad as well. Recently, we had a class of about form development with a faculty from, I don't remember the exact country from where she came, but yeah, we had a beautiful 3 weeks module with them. So such exposures are very integral for their internal development into a particular sector of specialization. Yeah, it goes same with the interior as well as in the product.
All right. Because there's a question that's
Yeah.
saying at the career fair, the DQ Labs career fair, I was told that you collaborate with some foreign universities. So which are the foreign universities that y'all have any collaborations with at this point of time? Anyone could take that question.
So currently we are see, the Alliance University has many collaborations already with universities across the globe. Even I will not be able to recall all of them like this on cue because there are quite a few. But one of the things that we are focusing on in the School of Design is to look at student exchange, especially in Europe, because what we have recognized is that design is, I think, in terms of the way design is taught and learned, I think European universities are currently leading it. So we've had not exchange, but we've had interactions with faculty from RCA. We've had interaction with faculty from several schools in the UK. I'm sorry, I'm really not able to remember all the names right now. But the trick is to still look at collaboration again, not just from a progression perspective, but on shared content perspective. I would rather do collaborative projects with different universities. Now, that doesn't need necessarily an MOU. It can just be us and the faculties who are teaching in different universities to collaborate on research and projects. So I would like to sort of use that as an example, because I do feel this whole idea of MOUs with international universities is a little bit, to too common at the moment, and I think everybody's doing the same thing, if I'm being frank. So I want to look at more meaningful collaborations. We invite a lot of faculty, international faculty, to come and teach inside the classroom. So our collaborations are more from that perspective, where it's real interaction in classroom, because not everybody can afford to go out and study. So instead of doing that, we are inviting people in. We had a faculty from Pratt University teaching with us. Last week, we also had somebody from Purdue in product design coming and teaching. We are getting faculty from a lot of international universities to come and actually teach. Next week, we are getting somebody from the University of Brighton to come and teach courses with us. So for us, the interaction is more on a faculty to faculty basis rather than just looking at a MOU that kind of just is a signpost somewhere. I hope
All
that
right.
answers your question. So we are
Yep.
taking a very, very strategic route to how we look at international collaborations. For example, if you're looking at transdisciplinary design, the what we are trying to develop is to have MOUs with industries. So, for example, Kaustubh and I were talking about doing an MOU with Accessory Design Studio, which is run by Suresh Eriath, to actually have a curriculum that is representative of a global voice, rather than just saying, oh, we're going to send students to a different country to study, because we really think that the future of education and design is in India. And I want to strengthen what we do here, rather than just look at MOUs. But we do a lot of international trips. We are sending students to Dubai to go and look at many different industry and educators internationally. So you will have a lot of international trips. We are doing another immersion with Polymi, which is Politecnico di Milano. It's in conversation. Again, it's not an MOU just for the sake of an MOU. It's actually an active collaboration where there will be an immersion school for our students who can choose to go and study. So we look at workshops, we look at faculty coming in, rather than just saying, okay, there's an MOU.
So beyond that, I mean, since we're on this topic,
Mm,
I also saw when Swati and I had visited the university, we saw the lab with the source systems, right? I think that's a pretty interesting setup to have there. Could you give us some insight on what is that industry? Because that comes under industry collaboration, right?
Yes. So we are looking at MOUs with Bosch, with Dassault, and the idea is that because we have both engineering and design sitting together, and a lot of these are common resources. So both engineering and design students use them together. And the idea is really to bring cutting edge technology and tools into the classroom. I mean, maybe not so relevant to design students, or maybe it is in the future, I don't know. But we have in engineering, there's an aeronautics lab, and there's a whole simulation of an aeroplane built on campus where you can go and look at the panel. So might be interesting for product and interaction designers to look at how airplane panels are built. So I think all our labs are equipped with I think most cutting edge equipment, and our hope is to ensure that that keeps changing and evolving, because technology is changing very, very rapidly. We are looking at setting up a center of we actually have a center of excellence for immersive technologies, which is focused on XR, VR. So we have HoloLenses, we have faculty that are trained that do research in this domain. So there are lots of opportunities for students to actually study from experts. We have a center of excellence for sustainability. We have a center of excellence for multimedia. So a lot of these center of excellences become a funnel for these collaborations, both with industry and government projects. So that's another
Fantastic.
thing
Good.
that the university is very keen to bring in from a research perspective.
All right, all right. I think we don't have too much time left. We have about 8 minutes left. So in that time, I'd really like to bring on the faculty over here. Akhil. Akhil is looking after the fashion design, right? So
Yeah, hi.
Akhil, hi. So fashion design is very interesting because not too many schools offer that at the level that we're looking at, right? So
Right.
so could you give us a brief idea of how y'all are trying to make a difference in the fashion design education?
Right, Dion. So, See, the fashion design is a subject which is moved beyond just garments, right? So traditionally, when we studied way back in the 90s, we talked about garments and all that. But today, if we really look at the fashion industry, it is so fast paced that everything is becoming, very disciplinary on its own. So, for example, uh, if we talk about wearable technology garments, those are becoming the big talk of the town, where the medical fraternity is benefiting out of them very much. The garments that can predict something like a heart attack. On the same side, we have the fashion moving into a very interesting field called performance wear, where we're talking about not only sportswear, but we're also talking about safety gears. So that's the advantage that we have here at Alliance, based since our curriculum designed is in a transdisciplinary model. We provide a lot of opportunities for students to have live projects in the classroom where they can get to experiment with what they like. So
And
as
it's interesting. It's interesting that they can do
yeah.
fashion design as a major and a
Yes,
minor
yes,
in strategic design or
yes,
so
right,
so that's a combination that may be hard to perceive because people would think that okay, fashion design is all about fashion, but really
absolutely.
it goes way beyond that, right?
Absolutely, and something like advanced material processes. Especially when people talk about 3D printing, there are a lot of designers who are now incorporating 3D printing into garments, right? So that is the advantage that we have because of our in-house capabilities and the kind of faculty that we have. So that collaborative, transdisciplinary thing that we have at Alliance is what our strength is. And
All right.
so and that actually gives the students a lot of insight into a lot many things. So for example, taking on from what someone just mentioned earlier, that while the students come here with some of them might be confused in terms of what to take up, but during the course of time, when they start exploring, then things change a lot, where they learn how to integrate their passion with interest. So
All
you
right.
can have a passion and you can have an interest. So how do you collaborate the two of them? That also becomes a big possibility.
Absolutely.
Um, and
Great.
especially if we look at how the job scenario also has changed. So people like Maruti Udyog and Air India hiring fashion designers.
Yep.
Game design company is hiring fashion designers. So yeah, that's what we bring in.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks for that,
Thank you.
Professor Akhil. Very interesting to
Thank
hear
you.
about that. Professor Kaustubh, you handle communication and animation, is what I understand. Right.
Yes. Hi.
All right. So, interdisciplinarity of communication and animation, how does that work?
See, since there is a paucity of time, I'll be very short and brief in that sense. In the sense that, firstly, the animation department, you can say that we focus on creating storytellers and filmmakers. So it's like a superset, firstly, and probably other than NID Ahmedabad, this is the only program in India at the undergrad level which teaches students to become independent free thinkers and filmmakers, okay, and storytellers. Most of the other undergrad programs are primarily focusing on building technical skills. We focus on both technical skills as well as storytelling skills. So that is the unique USP that animation has out here. So you will be learning to become a filmmaker, and later, like since it's a superset, you can become a comic book artist or even an animator, or you can even move into all kinds of other aspects of communication design. And speaking of communication design, obviously, more or less, we know that it's a superset yet again, okay, of all communication disciplines, including animation or graphic design or interaction design. So it will be creating a sort of a T-shaped designer, if you can understand. But then communication design is, since it dabbles into many aspects, from storytelling to, let's say, motion graphics. Okay, so it is trying to create a T-shaped designer which has got one kind of specialization, but it is also a kind of a horizontal understanding of multiple subjects. Okay.
Absolutely. That sounds
Huh.
very interesting.
Yeah. So, but if someone is needing to, let's say, focus more towards storytelling, then they will probably get into animation. If someone is focusing more towards, let's say, interactivity, probably they will go towards interaction design, UI UX design, which
All right.
Professor Anirban is much more equipped
All
to
right.
talk
All right.
about.
Thank you so much, Professor
Thank you.
Karsten.
Yeah.
We'll go on to Professor Anirban and understand what they do at the interaction design department. Yeah.
So first of all, thank you to all of you that you are participating in this e-talk or webinar. In interaction design, we generally do lots of user research, lots of information design, lots of new novel type of interaction design. So the unique proposition is like that. So whatever research we do, we learn from that, and we generally do share in our classes. So our students are getting cutting edge knowledge in the field of user experience and interaction design. So we have very interesting courses like digital interface design, where you are designing tangible products with sensors, with voice user interface, etc., etc. We do also have courses on immersive technologies like augmented reality, virtual reality. Um, in fact, our students really uh, designed good quality VR gadgets. The model of the VR devices they recently have designed and displayed during UX India conference. In fact, we do give exposure to students time to time with industry experts. So all the courses are running with at least one master class from industry expert. So that kind of exposure we try to give. In fact, happy to share that recently the senior design manager of IBM from California, Stacy Seronic, visited to our lab, HCID lab. We have very fantastic high-end human-computer interaction design lab, and our students are using this facility every day. We conduct classes sometimes there. So we have equipments like eye movement study, then brain wave study. So we have facilities like development of muscle computer interface, where you can interact with the virtual reality platforms with hand gestures. Then we also do have BCI kit, the brain computer interface kit. We know that IBM is the first developer of brain-computer interface, right? And it was implemented on a famous physicist who was having neurological emergency, ALS, amyloid lateral sclerosis. So that scientist could not able to communicate with other as they have as he has the paralysis, right? But the brain computers interface enabled him to interact with anybody through computers channel, right? So that kind of thing we do. We also do sometime like ethnographic study. We have laboratory setup for that. So sometimes the ethnographic user shadowing in the laboratory is
So,
also a part
if,
of that.
if I have to summarize, the
Mm.
interaction design goes beyond the traditional interaction design as we know it and goes
Yes,
into the realm of AR and VR
correct.
and phygital
Also
and
AI.
all of that.
Also
All
AI,
right.
yes.
All right.
We are
Then
applying AI for designing interfaces. Sometimes
that-
the other way around, we are also conceptualizing AI-based interfaces,
all
like
right.
decision support system for managers,
Okay.
managerial dashboards, where all these data analytics and things like that come into picture, and
All right.
our students are playing with data. So
That's fantastic. Right, Professor Anirban, thank you for joining us from Calcutta. And we do hope you enjoy your Durga Puja celebrations day. We know it's a big thing in Calcutta.
yes,
So
I mean, thousands of new design, new installations in
I
puja
hear so.
mandaps. Yeah.
I hear
Anyway,
that.
thank you very much.
All right. Thank you so much, Professor.
Dion, I was listening to everybody, and I thought that I must make this comment once everybody wraps up. Is that a lot of a lot of people in design are very focused on what technology is and where it'll take us. And I think one of the things that, like Anirban said, for us, research becomes very, very important because I think if you look at globally where design is going, a lot of the innovation is coming from deep research and application. It's no longer just about making something that looks lovely. It needs to work well. It also needs to function well. It has to function well over a long period of time. So I think for the school, the focus is to not just teach you technology, but to also teach you what to do with that technology. Whether it's UX, UI, whether it's animation, whether it's product design, fashion design. So we can give you the best technology in the world, but it's also important to give you the skills to be able to know what to do with that technology in new ways.
All
And I
right.
think that for us is very, very important.
Okay. Srishti, I'm sorry, we are really running out of time. I have to cut you short here.
I'm done. I'm done.
Two very, very quick last questions that we have. Can you please summarize the admission process if you can spend a minute on this?
Sure. So the admission process is very, very simple, and it's I guess quite similar according to most institutes. So you need to have your 10th and 12th, and you need to have at least 50% in your 12th, and you need to go through an AU DAT, which is Alliance University Design Aptitude Test, which is designed by all the faculty who are sitting here today, to see whether you cut out for design or not, in some sense. And then we look at an interview round, which also means that you have to showcase your portfolio. I want to just clarify, the portfolio does not mean we are expecting you to already be designers. We want to see how you think. So if you are a hobbyist skater and you can put together a presentation about your hobby, about skating or surfing or whatever, for us that can also count as a portfolio. So you want to see how you deal with the world, who you're about, what your passions and hobbies are, and you bring that to the fore. We want to see who you are as an individual, as a person.
All right. All
So
right.
yeah, that's what it
And
is. We do have scholarships, but again, like I said, everything is available on the website. Just go and have a look. If not, you can reach out directly to Alliance University.
sure. And the link is there pinned on the chat box. Last question. Could you give us an idea of internships and placements? Srishti, 1 minute on this, please.
I'll take 30 seconds. Yes, internships are very, very important. Every summer, every student must get an internship. We do have a cell, which is called CAN office, or they look at careers essentially. They help in finding you both internships and placements, and they also train you on how to write your CV, how do you dress for an interview, how do you sort of prepare essentially, because we know this is the first time you'll be going out. And it is credited. So every internship that you do is going to be credited. You have to earn that credit. So in the summer, and then you have a graduation project in the last year, which is also a fairly common exercise in most design institutes. So 4 months of graduation project, internship every summer break, and dissertations. We want you to write. Designers are very bad at writing, so we want to make sure you know how to communicate and articulate yourself. So,
And
yeah.
with that, thank you so much, Srishti. Thank you, Subhan, Professor Anirban, Kaustubh, and Akhil. Thank you so much for taking the time out to be here. Absolutely enjoyed this webinar and
Same
looking
here.
forward to more interactions with you guys.
Thank
And
you.
hopefully a visit to Alliance at some point of time.
Please do. I think if I know that some students are in 11th standard, I think you mentioned.
Yeah.
If they're in 10th till 11th, every summer Alliance does a, LVP, which is sorry, not LVP, YLA, which is the Young Leaders Alliance. So we do a summer camp where you get to experience all the different disciplines. You come here, you stay on campus, you participate in the classes. You also get to play sports and activities, and we do a lot of interesting workshops. It's just a way for you to experience what Alliance has to offer. Sign up.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
All right, if you all can remain here, I'm going to go off live stream.